We are back again, and we have Collins in the studio this morning. So the question that we are asking is, what are some of the headlines that you are waking up to this morning? Yes. Now, Richie tells me that our screen is a little bit cold this morning, but he knows exactly how to go around it. Now, Collins, the first story that we as Nairobi residents are waking up to, now City Hall is just about to have Nairobi Revenue Authority, all right? And will work the same way as the Kenya Revenue Authority in that collect its revenue and actually account for its revenue and put to task the people who don't pay the revenue. Now, this comes from a county that, number one, the other day got salary increments from its employees despite protests from SRC about its revenue collection methods. Number two, a county that has never hit its revenue collection methods or targets, sorry. Number three, a county that up to date struggles to manage its workers because of cases of ghost workers and all that. Now, we've seen attempts from the county governor, that's Mike Sonko, to streamline some of these events. Number one, now we do know that they have work cards, right, that are going to stamp out ghost workers in the county. But when you look at this now, and remember the other day they just increased the contract for Jumbo Pay, right, sure, to help them collect revenues across the county. When you look at this, of course, now this has gone through the first reading. When they pass this and now they have Nairobi Revenue Authority, where do you start poking holes from? And is this a proper direction for this county that wants to meet its revenue collection targets?
Thank you so much. The question is, they're saying the county revenue administration that is going to be formed, its work is to collect and receive revenue on behalf of the county. My question is whether we don't have organizations to do that, or whether we as a county have just failed to realize our target, our revenue collection target. It will interest you to note that during Kidero's regime, the county raised, the list that we raised as a county was 11 billion. Last year, we raised 10.1 billion in this administration. Now, this half period of this financial year, we've been able to raise 3.8 something billion, a deficit of 8 billion from the target that we ought to have raised. And people have tried to, from the 134 revenue streams that we have, internal revenue streams that we have in this county. And people have tried to raise questions, whether it's about automation of how we collect the revenue, whether it's about demoralization of employees, whether it's about lack of an organization. That's why this bill is being proposed, that we install an office that helps to realize revenue. But for me, I don't think that is addressing the issue. The issue is way beyond an organization that helps us, an organization that is like KRA, to help us collect and receive and manage revenue. For me, the issue is realistic, the realistic nature of what you're doing. Some of these internal revenue streams that we have in this country, like the markets that we have, you're telling an old woman in the city market to pay her revenue through pay bill numbers or through Jumbo Pay.
Yes.
It doesn't work like that. You need to educate them. I mean, there was a time that they were having conversations in this county that we resort back to manual revenue collection, because they realized that during Kidero's regime, some of the times that they did manual collection of revenue, they realized higher revenue collection than now that we are having automated collection of revenue. Yes. And so I think we need to have an holistic conversation on whether the system that we are imploring on citizens of this country, of this country, are realizable. Are we realizing our targets? Is it because we don't have a body that does that, or is it because people are not following the law, or is it because the streams that we have, the internal revenue streams that we have, do not comply with this system of revenue collection that we want to employ?
Yes. Now we do know that there's some bills that are sitting in Sonko's office right now that are waiting to be looked at or turned into law. Now we do know that the other day they were talking about arresting shoppers who shop from hawkers in the CBD, just as they try to manage and get revenue collections from these people. Now, the other one that they came and looked into, the first one, was that every hawker, therefore, should pay 500 shillings, isn't it? That every day, they don't kick them out, but let them pay 500 shillings. Now, when you look at this collection method that they want to come up with, where we have revenue collectors given cards and all that, how does it relate well to the bulk of the people who do business within Nairobi? Do we start punching holes from there and say that this won't happen because of the people who trade within the Nairobi County?
And I think that's the question, really. Equally, it would interest you to know that, and I've talked about demoralization of employees in the county, in the county government.
Yes.
There's an interview of few of the county askaris, and they are saying that they are so much demoralized that they report to work at 8 and they want to leave work at 5. If they leave work at 5, most of these hawkers start their work at 5.
Yes.
And you want to target them for purposes of raising revenue for this county. If the hawkers are going to report to work at past 5, and your county's askaris that are demoralized are going to leave work at 5, how do you envisage collecting revenue from these same hawkers? Equally, you're saying let us all the people who do business in Nairobi are going to have pins for like the ones that we have for KRA pins.
Yes.
They're going to have administrative pins to collect their revenues. How do we want to enroll all of these workers, all of these hawkers who we don't have a union of the workers, for instance. We don't have a place where we can say, okay, these few people are workers, apart from the arrests that we see in the evening from the county askaris. So I think maybe we need to streamline our internal markets, our internal revenue markets, and see how the people who contribute to the revenue directly are enlisted with us as a county government first, before we start looking at creation of this office. Because equally, we now have people who collect revenue. Are you going to render them unemployed if you are going to adopt this bill that is a second reading?
So many questions to be looked into.
Yeah.
All right. Another headline that we're waking up to this morning is that now the Nairobi Securities Exchange, through its Booker plan, has attracted interest from local firms. Now we do know that 10 local firms, not listed, not revealed, have shown interest on the NSE. Now, this is through the Ibuka plan. Collins, the question that we're asking this morning is this. Kenya, as a country, has a lot of companies with the potential to trade on NSE. All right? So the question that remains is that how can the NSE pull these companies on board? All right? And when we look at some of the regulations that NSE really requires for these companies to be on board, are they that tight enough so that now we don't have these companies coming on board? And the last question, if all these things are there, because NSE is saying yes, we are making it easier and easier for them to be on board, like through the Ibuka plan now they're rolling across the country. Are we doing clean business in the country?
The Ibuka plan is being rolled out around the country, but from the 10 companies that have been, the 10 local companies that have been listed, I know of only, I think, one that is not in Nairobi. I think it's in Thika or Kiambu. The rest of the rest 9 are all from Nairobi. So it tells you, okay, maybe the Ibuka plan is not working if it's being rolled out around the country too. The standards to be enlisted in NSE, I think it's meeting minimum financial requirements and equally non-financial requirements. But whether they are strict enough for us to, the question should be, why don't you have a lot of companies, local companies, being enlisted? I think this goes beyond what NSC can do. And to me, it goes to what our laws can do to streamline the companies in this country. And one of the agendas of this government is manufacturing. And so it really needs to speak to the companies through manufacturing as an agenda for the president. And for me, what I've always proposed is less taxation of companies less taxation of local companies in this country. This is what I mean by what I'm saying, is companies are taxed at 2 levels, the corporate levels and then the directors level. I've been, for the longest time, proposing that let us tax companies at the corporate level less if they are local companies and if they have employed 80% of the locals of that country, of that place. And equally, we want to extrapolate it further and say maybe if they've employed 50% of the employees are youths, and so we can tax them less. This will endear a lot of companies and a lot of SMEs to start up to get to that place, because a lot of what has really made them shy away from this is the taxation that they are facing. Equally, a lot of SMEs cannot really grow to that position of being companies because of the hardships that they are facing. If the government can equally embrace a position where we say for SMEs we are going to give them a tax exemption of, let's say, 2 years for them to mushroom and to grow to that position that they are now companies, and just to promote them so that in in the fullness of time, we see a lot of local companies enlisting with the NSC.
Yes, and I just the last question on this topic this morning is business from foreign investors on the books hit 75%. Currently, it's at 75%. So, what is really attracting these foreign investors into a market that the locals are not really seeing?
And that's the question. What are these foreign companies? What are they seeing that we as Kenyans are not seeing? Is it a potential that we are still shy from tapping into it, or? I think it still really boils down to the hardships that these local companies face at this local within the local setup.
Yes.
That these other foreign companies are not subjected to, and they have freedom and they have all the resources. But these local companies in the country, they do not have that willpower and the manpower to really mash up to what the foreign companies are giving. Yeah, and that's why I can associate it to the 75% boss.
All right, crossing over swiftly now, we do have news. It's been trending since last week that some Kenyans, investors and home owners or dreamers are not going to get their homes with SURAYA Real Estate Company. It's not the first time that Kenyans are waking up to schemes about home ownership in this nation that have turned out to be just a dream. That's the way it is, just a dream. So the question that we're asking this morning, therefore, is it time, Collins, for the government to come in, all right, and put strict measures around the way real estate business is being carried out in the country, or we just leave it again to be a level playing field where Kenyans are losing out money day in, day out? And is it time for us to really start asking the question, who in this country can own a home? So that now, even as these real estate players come into the country, we do know that that house is not for me. I cannot own a home. So sell it for somebody different.
Two things I'm picking from your question. One, it's time the government comes on board to streamline the real estate industry. In America, the government came on board, and we had there's Freddie Mac and Fannie Mac that are the leading real estate firm in America. That the government gives you land, then sort of you give out now mortgages to other people. You're asking who can own land in this country in a time where we are having the housing finance bill, where we are having 1.5% being deducted from Kenyans to see to it that in the fullness of time we can be able to afford houses, all of us. So maybe they are, in a way, trying to do away with real estate. But what I want to understand is the bottlenecks that these real estate firms face in the way to give you a home. You imagine the high rates, the high land rates that we have in this country. After obtaining land for the real estate, they now want to finance the land and finance the process of construction of houses for purposes of you to come on board and take the houses. Whether we want to look at and we had, I think it's called interest cap rate law that was incorporated, I think in 2016.
Yes, in 2016 as well.
Purpose of the act, I think, was to have cheap lending.
Yes.
But it worked in the other way. It was a nosedive. It did not really take effect because now a lot of these companies, SURAYA, we had, I think it's Ekeza, which was a SACO.
Yes. We also had the one for simple homes as well.
Yeah, for simple homes. A lot of these companies are facing these problems because of money.
Yes.
And because of they don't have a lot of money now. They've already incurred a lot of costs to get to where they are.
Yes.
And they're realizing that within this short time, they're not going to realize the houses they promised people, and they don't have budget to finance that.
Yes.
I think we now need to look at alternative funding schemes for this for these companies.
Yes.
If the government is not going to take charge to streamline the sector.
Just because of that time, I would have loved to spend some little more time on that. I just want us to cross over to the WAITITU story. Not just the WAITITU story, therefore, the corruption on the county level. Now, we do know that Friday last week, WAITITU was granted what is called an anticipatory bail of 500,000 shillings. Now, EACC has said, look, we find this a bit fishy and we're going to contend this in the High Court. Now we're just waiting to see how matters unfold on that this week or this month or next month. We're just waiting to see how EACC gets around this whole issue and how High Court is going to respond to this story. That aside, really, because that's an ongoing case, we don't want to delve into it. The question is this. Kenyans need to understand what this anticipatory bail is, isn't it? And therefore we ask ourselves the question, if we have or we are fighting corruption, what is the best way possible? Because EFCC says we have evidence. Here it is. We've tabled it. But the same people who should look into fighting corruption are the same people who, in other words, are looking to support this corruption. Let's first understand what this anticipatory bail is and why it's creating a lot of fracas in the law institutions in the country, and therefore ask ourselves the question: what next? Therefore, should the courts also be helping to fight corruption? If EFCC says we have evidence, why can we not let them push forward?
Okay. Thank you. An anticipatory bail is an insulation. I mean, you preempt that you're going to be arrested, and so you run to court to obtain an anticipatory bail, awaiting your arrest. And so when you're arrested, then you can use the anticipatory bail to free yourself.
Yes.
It's found under the bails and bonds terms. But it really came into picture for purposes of trying to... There are people who used to be oppressed by the government. And so they used this as a tool to escape how the government was treating them.
Yes.
But whether the one that was given to WAITITU is it's legal or not legal, I mean, I've seen a lot of debate out there. For me, I want to think it is legal to some extent for purposes of Section 88 of the Magistrates Act, but it's not really sanctioned clear on whether a magistrate court can offer anticipatory bail. I was telling you, these are loopholes that I think the magistrate in Kiambu tried to use,
and that's what the whole conversation is now about.
That's the conversation now.
Yes.
But how the understanding is that these are an exclusive right for an exclusive right used by the High Court that has to be exerted by the High Court, because matters to do with interpretation of the Bill of Rights is an prerequisite of High Court, and anticipatory bail is given when you think, when you are anticipating or preempting that you are that your rights are going to be violated, and so you run to court to obtain an anticipatory bail. Whether the country has to, whether we're in a position where we understand corruption in this country is another thing altogether. I think two things come into play. Kenyans are not angry enough, and then the law has given so much loophole for people to...
What makes you say, some Kenyans will tell you we are tired? And so when you say Kenyans are not angry enough over these corruption cases, what makes you say that? What are you observing that will say, yeah, well, Kenyans are not angry enough?
I think Kenyans are yet to understand what is 1 billion.
Yes.
I think Kenyans are yet to understand the impact of 656 million. Or we are yet to understand misappropriation of 890 million, what it means.
Yes.
I think Kenyans are yet to interact with what Makueni County is doing to see that they can construct a hospital that costs 270 million and all that, and yet a county is misappropriating something close to 600 million, and you are fine with it. You saw how people escorted WAITITU from EFCC.
And I wanted to ask you that, what does really that mean? I mean, this is a suspect. This is somebody who EFCC officials are saying, look, beyond doubt, we have this case, we know this is the evidence, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a person who's stealing from you, isn't it? But then after that, you saw the number of crowds that escorted WAITITU to and from.
Yeah, and you see, the political elite class has always wanted to associate their struggles. I don't know why they want to make it our business.
Yes.
And they first tell us how it's a political witch hunt, how what is happening, it's happening to woodwind Kenyans. For me, I think we are not angry enough, and until we get to that position that we are angry enough as Kenyans, this corruption thing is just going to be what we take it for, empty rhetorics.
Gary from Collins, Kenyans are not angry enough. So until you're angry enough, this fight for corruption is just a rhetoric. All right, let's cross over to the last of our conversation this morning. KQ CEO, the boss, is quitting 31st December. And Collins, I just want us to get straight into this. And I want you to really look at his letter to the staff. He said, look, I just want you to get this straight for me. A lot of rumors are going to start about, well, I've quit because of personal reasons, which I will not let you know. But when you look at that, if you want to quit, just say, I'm quitting, all right? And this is exactly what I've done. But when you look at why it kept on going around the issue of quitting, what does that paint?
I think a lot of people who've held positions of authority in this country, when they leave office, they want to have that dramatic exit, where they know the reason why they're leaving, but they want to coin up a lot of other reasons. There's one famous person who was leaving office as a cabinet secretary, and she told us she's leaving because of for lighter duties and because of medical reasons, yet we saw her becoming a governor. I don't know how lighter that is. But really, conversations about KQ, I mean,
Yes.
we need to have honest conversations. And
Yes.
the thing about quitting now and leaving office in 31st December is something that the companies actually needs to look at it.
Yes.
I mean, what is he going to do now till 31st December that he hasn't done, or that he wants now to do,
That he wants
and
to do
and he's
after
quitting.
announcing that he's quitting,
After-
isn't it? That's the
after
main
announcing
question.
that he's quitting.
Yes.
But obviously it's not because of personal reasons. Because if it was personal reasons, he could just left it at that. It's personal
Yes.
reasons. I don't want to speculate that there are going to be a lot of public debate about my exit.
But I'm quitting and all that, you know?
But equally, let's give it to the man. I mean,
Yes.
he's done quite a tremendous job with regards to KQ when he took over and until now. But I think the conversation needs to
Yes.
go further than that. We need to look at recapitalizing KQ and all those things for
Yes.
purposes of revamping the airline that we once took pride in.
All right, now we will leave it at that point. Those are the headlines that we are waking up to this morning. So the question is, who is the next CEO touted to get KQ out of the rubble? We do know that it has gone down with 2 men. Now the third man is coming on board. What is he going to do? Standings are that KQ used to make about 22.5 billion shillings of losses in 2014. Now, during this time, MIKOSZ, as he quits, KQ stands at 7.5 billion shillings worth of losses. That's a lot of money. So the question is, what happens next to this airline? And with that question, we take a short break here on Business AM as we come back to also ask you, what should you know in the major sectors and in the economy in Kenya? We take a short break. Once we come back, Metropole TV sector trends. Business AM. Talk to us online. Metropole TV KE. Tweet to us. Write to us on Facebook. There are people with keyboards on their hands right now and are going to talk to you as well. All right, let's take the break.